I know this may be, for some people, maybe like, oh my God, but this is real. This is where my child is. And there are a lot of black men and brown men that should not be in this cemetery. Every time I come, I think, why is my child here? What did he do so bad in his life where someone felt they had the right to take his life? 25 years old, person full of life, and he's gone. And that's Clinton's grave with the wreath on it. We haven't even gotten his headstone yet because it's like making funeral arrangements again. His dad is so broken. It's something we need to do together, but we can't even. The grief is so bad. We can't even sit down to put together what we want to put on the headstone because it's like making funeral arrangements all over again. So this is what we have for now. This is where my child is because he was murdered by someone of authority that we trusted that is supposed to serve and protect. Someone with authority murdered our child. So there's another level of grief there. You have that grief and you have the other grief of him being murdered by someone of authority. It's just so egregious. It's just, you can't even imagine your child being taken away from you like that. It's horrible. Just horrible.
We're here again with you at your son's gravesite, and you've been telling us a little bit about the grief process. Does that fuel you in any way with your fight against the system?
It does. Just amazingly, and through prayer, and the prayer of so many people, I've been able to turn my grief into fuel. Don't get me wrong, I have days where, when I think about the horror that my child went through, and him being executed and being alone, and having that type of aggression shown toward him, and him knowing that he's being murdered. If I allow my mind to wonder, I have days where it's quite difficult. But all in all, I've managed to turn my grief into fuel for a fight that's for Clinton, that's for you, that's for a lot of black and brown men in Dallas that will not find justice in this town until somebody finally stands up and say no more.
Staying on that point, what are some words you have? Because sadly, you're not alone in your grief. There are many mothers and fathers and wives and all that have this same grief. What can you give them as any kind of, inspiration to say that, this isn't over?
Right. The thing that I would tell any parent that this happened to, and sadly enough, it will happen again, because of the policies, the lack of policies and procedures, the lack of leadership from our black leaders that could come forth and move mountains and protest and put the Dallas Police Department on notice that they are being watched, and that they know that certain policies are different when it comes to certain neighborhoods, and that they know that our young men are being murdered, but our leaders choose to be silent for a lot of reasons, for because of their political aspirations, and some of because they become desensitized to our young men being murdered by the Dallas police. But I would tell any family that's going through this is you cannot give up. That is what Dallas Police Department is used to families doing. They put you in this box and they wait for you to kick and scream, and they wait for you to run out of energy. They will not give you any information. They're going to send a message to you right away. We're bigger, we're stronger, we're the police department, and we will not be talking to you. And so they capitalize on your grief, and they stonewall you. They won't give you any information. And in that moment, that is the moment that you have to find your strength and you have to fight. Because if you go away, it endorses that behavior for it to happen again. And our men are being killed because our black communities are not fighting for them. Because Chief Brown endorses this behavior from these cops that kill, and when every time he endorses that behavior, another dirty cop that's itching to pull his trigger and to murder goes into certain zip codes so that they can play cops and robbers. So these families have to stand up. I understand the grief is horrible. I go through it every day, but you have to manage to turn that grief into fuel and fight for your child.
And can you give us a status update of your fight now?
Today we had the ethics hearing. I filed an ethics complaint against Chief Brown to make sure that, which we did not believe, that he was providing, that he did provide a shooting summary to the FBI, which after James Harper was murdered, those are one of the policies that he said that he would implement to assure the public that he's working closely to bringing in an outside agency, the FBI, to look at these shootings, and that he would also implement a foot chase pursuit policy, which would be 2 officers pursuing a suspect instead of 1. Well, none of those changes. He hasn't done any of that. Chief Brown makes promises only to our communities to appease us, and we accept it. And we should still be protesting about James Harper, but he makes the promises, and history has taught him that's all he has to do, and then he appeases us, and then we go away and we forget. Today we have the ethics hearing to make him come forward with giving us that shooting summary. Well, he released it to us last week. We went ahead and went through with the ethics hearing because I just wanted to go through the due process. I wanted to be familiar with it. When we got there, they found the technicality to dismiss. We knew they would dismiss because we already got what we wanted, but we didn't know that they were going to look for technicality. So basically, they dismissed the complaint because I wasn't a Dallas resident. So they found the technicality. But that was okay because we already got what we wanted, and that was the shooting summary, which holds some very, very valuable information for us that we otherwise would not have had.
Has there been any reaction from the police department to you of note?
No, they do not talk with... Chief Brown sent a message to us very early that he would not be speaking with our family. And that's fine, I'm past that. He can't do anything for our family anyway, Chief Brown has some issues of his own, and namely, his son was murdered by a police officer, but his son also murdered a police officer. So he puts everybody else's son in that same bracket. That's how he's dealing. Whenever a black man is shot unarmed, the first thing Chief Brown says is that it was justified and that he was on drugs. Well, Chief Brown's son was high on PCP. My son wasn't high on PCP like he said he was. Toxicology proved that Clinton was not high on PCP. Clinton did not shoot at a shoot clock staller. I wish every day he had. I could deal with that. I would rather for him to be gone than my son. He's a dirty cop. But Chief Brown's son did kill a police officer. So his hands are tied. There's nothing he can do for families when this happened, because the first thing that the police association is going to say to him is that you're just retaliating because this happened to your son. So I'm not even sure that he should even have that position as a chief of police, because what can he do for us? He can't do anything for our community when our sons are murdered. There's nothing he can do. His hands are tied.
Do you expect a positive result from your work here? Is there, and the future that you're looking forward in ahead, do you see that this is a winning fight?
Absolutely, because what it's doing is laying a blueprint for other families, because this is going to happen again. No other family has gone as far as we have and has been aggressive as we are being with the police department. We have expectations and we have questions, and we intend to get it from them. And we're not just going to go away in our grief and just let this thing die down. I mean, my son's life was taken. No, this is not going to die down. We're going to get answers. I want this policeman indicted, prosecuted, and I want him to go to jail. He needs to serve time. He murdered someone. Just because you have a badge and a gun does not take away who you are. If you are a killer, you are a killer with a badge and a gun. And that's what Clark Starler is.
Okay, and lastly, for our audience, what's your next step? Where, you had your rally. Is there another rally? What's the next piece of the puzzle?
Our next step is we're working with a lot of outside people because, as we know, here in Dallas, even the press, the media, we've been getting some media, but the media, not you guys, when you guys get it, you understand it, are desensitized when it comes to black men being murdered. The next step that we're going to do is work with these outside people. We have things. Dallas needs a consent decree. The Justice Department needs to come in and make recommendations to the police department, because there's been over 60 unarmed men since 2001 that have been murdered by Dallas police, and not one officer has been indicted. We have found out now that the district attorney goes in, meets with the grand jury. Now, the family can't talk to the grand jury, attorneys can't talk to the grand jury, but the district attorney, who is for the people, by the people, supposed to be serving us too, goes in and tells the grand jury something on the scale of, we know this shooting has some gray areas, but we think this officer, we can clear him. So the district attorney is going in fighting for these officers. We're never going to get an indictment. So we're going to be filing a complaint to make that aware that the district attorney is going in and fighting for these officers, and that should not be.
Okay, we thank you again, Ms. Flanagan, and we hope to see you further in your fight, and we'll be covering you continually.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
We do.